The spotlight hit Anya, making her silver costume sparkle. She took a deep breath, trying to ignore the heavy feeling in her chest. Tonight, she wasn't dancing for joy or art. She was dancing for Victor, a man known for his cruel smile and even crueler deals. He was an arms dealer, a bad guy who sold dangerous weapons to other bad guys. And Anya was trapped, forced to perform in his private theater, a gilded cage in the middle of his huge mansion. Victor sat in the front row, his eyes like ice. He didn't care about the beauty of the dance. He just wanted to show off. Anya knew that one wrong move could have terrible consequences, not just for her, but for others too. Little did Victor know, tonight's performance wouldn't go as planned. Far outside the walls of the estate, a shadow moved. It was Ryder, a man with a score to settle. He'd been watching, planning, waiting for the perfect moment. He knew what Victor was capable of, and he was ready to crash this deadly show. This encore would be one Victor never expected, a lethal dance of revenge and rescue. Victor's estate was like a fortress. High walls surrounded the property, topped with sharp metal spikes. Guards patrolled constantly, their eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. Inside, the mansion glittered with gold and expensive art, all bought with money made from selling weapons. Anya knew every inch of her gilded prison, from the sparkling chandeliers to the hidden cameras in the hallways. The theater where she danced was Victor's pride and joy. Red velvet seats lined the room, and a massive stage dominated the space. But Anya saw past the luxury. She saw the bars on the windows, the armed guards standing watch, and the cold, calculating look in Victor's eyes. Tonight felt different. The air crackled with tension. Anya could sense that something was about to happen, something that would shatter the illusion of peace Victor tried so hard to create. She just didn't know what or when it would strike. The opulent setting felt like a stage set for a tragedy. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret. Every whisper carried a threat. Anya was trapped, waiting for the curtain to rise on a deadly act. Before Victor, Anya's life was filled with sunlight and music. She remembered endless hours in the dance studio, pushing her body to its limits, chasing perfection. Her biggest worry was mastering a difficult pirouette, not escaping a ruthless criminal. She had dreams of dancing on grand stages, of sharing her art with the world. She wasn't dancing for a monster like Victor. She pictured her old teacher, Madame Sophie, her strict but loving mentor. Madame Sophie always said Anya had a gift, a spark that set her apart. That spark was almost extinguished now, buried beneath layers of fear and despair. Victor had taken everything. He'd used his power and money to crush her dreams, trapping her in his world of darkness. Anya clung to the memories of her past, of the girl she used to be. They were a reminder that hope still existed, even in the darkest of times. She couldn't let Victor steal her memories, her spirit. She had to find a way to reclaim her life, to dance again for herself, not for him. Maybe, just maybe, Ryder was the answer to her prayers. Ryder stood in the shadows, a ghost in the night. He was a man of few words, but his eyes held a fierce determination. He wore dark clothes that blended into the darkness, making him almost invisible. He'd spent weeks studying Victor's estate, learning its secrets, identifying its weaknesses. He knew the guards' patrol routes, the location of the security cameras, and the blind spots in the system. He was a master of stealth, moving with a quiet grace that belied his strength. Each step was calculated, each breath controlled. He carried no fancy gadgets, just his wits, his training, and a burning desire for revenge. He watched Anya through his binoculars, recognizing the sadness in her movements. He knew she was a prisoner, just like someone he had failed to protect in the past. Tonight, he wouldn't fail again. He was going to tear down Victor's empire, brick by brick, until nothing was left but ashes. He was coming for Victor, and he was coming for Anya. He was the storm that was about to break over Victor's carefully constructed world. Victor had taken everything from Ryder years ago. He'd betrayed him, stolen from him, and left him for dead. But Ryder survived. He spent years rebuilding his life, honing his skills, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. But it wasn't just about revenge anymore. Victor had also kidnapped Ryder's friend's daughter, Lily. She was a bright, spirited girl with dreams of becoming a doctor. Ryder had promised her parents he would protect her. He failed. Now, he knew Victor was holding her somewhere within the estate, using her as leverage. That's why Anya's situation resonated with him so deeply. Rescuing Lily was his primary goal. Revenge against Victor was a close second. He wouldn't let another innocent life be destroyed by Victor's greed and cruelty. He owed it to Lily, to her parents, and to himself. He would make Victor pay for everything he had done, and he would bring Lily home no matter the cost. This wasn't just a mission, it was a promise. Anya moved across the stage, her body a ribbon of grace and strength. But tonight, her heart wasn't in it. Every step was a reminder of her captivity. Every twirl a silent scream for help. She tried to convey a message through her movements, a plea for someone to see her desperation. Victor watched, his face unreadable. He seemed to enjoy her torment, the way he held her captive body and soul. He clapped politely after each sequence, but his eyes never warmed. They were cold and calculating, assessing her value, her usefulness. Anya focused on a distant point in the audience, imagining someone, anyone, who could understand her pain. She poured all her fear, her anger, and her hope into her dance, transforming it into a silent rebellion. It was the only weapon she had left, a way to defy Victor, even in his own theater. She hoped, somehow, that her message would reach Ryder, that he would see her, not just as a dancer, but as a person trapped and desperate for freedom, that he would understand the lethal encore she was silently begging for. Ryder moved like a shadow, slipping past the outer perimeter with ease. He disabled cameras with small, targeted EMP bursts from his modified watch. He took down guards silently, using pressure points and swift movements. He left no trace, no sound, just unconscious bodies hidden in the darkness. He used the estate's ventilation system to navigate, crawling through narrow ducts, listening for any sign of Lily. The air was thick with dust and the scent of expensive cologne, a strange mix that made him cough. He reached a control room, disabling the alarm system with a few keystrokes. He now had a limited window of opportunity before the system rebooted. He moved with renewed urgency, knowing that every second counted. He had to find Lily and get her out of there, before Victor realized what was happening. He could almost taste the freedom that awaited them, but he knew the hardest part was yet to come, facing Victor himself. During a complex series of leaps, Anya's eyes flicked to the side of the theater. She saw a flicker of movement in the shadows, a brief glimpse of a dark figure. It was gone as quickly as it appeared, but she knew she hadn't imagined it. It was Ryder. A surge of hope coursed through her veins. Someone was here to help. She subtly changed her routine, adding a series of quick turns that allowed her to scan the room more effectively. She saw nothing more, but the knowledge that Ryder was somewhere nearby gave her strength. Victor, however, seemed oblivious. He was focused on her performance, his expression still cold and detached. But Anya knew he wasn't as unaware as he seemed. He was always watching, always calculating. She had to be careful. She couldn't let him suspect that she knew someone was coming. Her life, and possibly Ryder's, depended on it. The glimpse of Ryder was like a spark in the darkness, a promise of a chance to escape. Ryder rounded a corner, only to be confronted by two guards. They hadn't been part of the patrol routes he'd memorized. Victor was already changing things. He reacted instantly, throwing a small smoke pellet at their feet. The corridor filled with thick, white smoke, disorienting the guards. He moved with lightning speed, disarming one guard and using him as a shield against the other's bullets. He then delivered a swift kick to the first guard's head, knocking him unconscious. The second guard fired wildly, but Ryder dodged the bullets with practiced ease. He closed the distance and delivered a series of precise strikes, disabling the guard without killing him. He couldn't afford to waste time. He needed to find Lily and Anya before Victor tightened security further. The brief encounter had cost him precious minutes, but it also confirmed his suspicions. Victor was on alert. The game had changed. This was no longer just about stealth. It was about survival. Victor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. He called his head of security, Boris, on his phone. "Double the guards in the East Wing," he growled. "And check the ventilation system. I want every inch of this place secured." He had a feeling something was wrong. Anya seemed distracted, her movements slightly off, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He didn't know who or what was causing his unease, but he wasn't taking any chances. He'd built his empire on paranoia and ruthlessness, and he wasn't about to let it crumble now. He glanced back at Anya, his expression hardening. If she was involved, she would pay the price. He wouldn't hesitate to use her to send a message to whoever was foolish enough to challenge him. The show was about to get a lot more interesting and a lot more dangerous. Victor relished the thought. Knowing Victor was watching her more closely now, Anya had to be clever. During a particularly fast-paced sequence, she intentionally stumbled, feigning a momentary loss of balance. As she recovered, she subtly directed her gaze towards a specific section of the theater, a dimly lit area near the stage where she suspected Ryder might be hiding. She then exaggerated her recovery, making it seem like she was simply regaining her composure. Victor seemed to buy it, his suspicion momentarily lessened. She used the opportunity to incorporate a series of wide, sweeping gestures into her dance, subtly obscuring the view of the guards in the targeted area. It was a risky move, but it was the only way she could think of to give Ryder a chance to move undetected. She was putting her trust in him, hoping he would understand her signal and use it to his advantage. Her dance was no longer just a performance. It was a lifeline. Ryder burst through the doors of the theater, guns blazing. The sudden chaos erupted like a thunderclap. Guards scrambled for cover, their weapons drawn. Anya froze for a split second, then used the confusion to her advantage, leaping into the air and using the momentum to launch herself behind a large prop. Victor roared with fury, shoving aside a table and grabbing a hidden pistol from a drawer. "Kill him!" he screamed, his face contorted with rage. Ryder moved with incredible speed, dodging bullets and taking down guards with precise shots. He was a whirlwind of controlled violence, a force of nature unleashed upon Victor's carefully constructed world. He scanned the room, searching for Anya and Lily, knowing they were the priorities. The air filled with the smell of gunpowder and the screams of the wounded. The final act had begun, and it was going to be a bloodbath. The theater erupted into a war zone. Bullets flew, shattering chandeliers and tearing through velvet curtains. Anya, taking cover behind a large, ornate vase, saw a guard aiming at Ryder. Without thinking, she grabbed a heavy candelabra and hurled it at the guard, knocking him off balance. Ryder, seeing Anya's quick thinking, nodded in acknowledgement. He needed to find Lily, but he couldn't leave Anya unprotected. He continued to fight his way through the remaining guards, his movements a blur of speed and precision. A bullet grazed Anya's arm, and she cried out in pain. Ryder saw her flinch and his rage intensified. He wouldn't let Victor hurt her. He would protect her, even if it meant sacrificing himself. He knew the odds were stacked against him, but he refused to back down. This was more than just a mission. It was personal. Victor, seeing his guards falling one by one, decided to take matters into his own hands. He lunged at Ryder, a knife glinting in his hand. Ryder, expecting the move, sidestepped him with ease. Anya, recovering from her graze, saw Victor's attack and instinctively used her ballet skills. She launched herself forward, executing a perfectly timed spinning kick that sent Victor stumbling backward. Ryder used the opportunity to disarm him, kicking the knife across the room. Victor, furious, grabbed a chair and swung it wildly. Anya, displaying surprising agility, dodged the blow and used the chair's momentum against him, sending him crashing to the ground. Ryder, impressed by her skills, realized she was more than just a dancer. She was a fighter. Together, they might actually stand a chance against Victor and his remaining men. The unlikely alliance was forming, forged in fire and desperation. Ryder remembered Lily's mother, Sarah. She had been his partner, his best friend. They had worked together, taking down criminals, protecting the innocent. Victor had been their biggest target, a dangerous arms dealer they had been tracking for months. Then Victor had turned the tables. He had set a trap, ambushing them during a mission. Sarah had been killed, and Ryder had barely escaped with his life. He had promised Sarah, as she lay dying, that he would protect Lily. He had failed. Victor had taken Lily, using her as leverage to silence Ryder. That failure had haunted him ever since. It was the reason he had become so ruthless, so determined. He wouldn't let Victor win again. He would avenge Sarah's death, rescue Lily, and bring Victor to justice, no matter the cost. He saw Sarah in Anya's bravery and felt a renewed sense of purpose. Victor, pinned to the ground, smirked. "You think you've won?" he rasped. "You haven't seen anything yet." He pressed a button on his watch, and the stage floor began to rumble. Suddenly, the floor beneath Anya and Ryder gave way, plunging them into a dark, underground chamber. The theater lights flickered and died, plunging the entire room into darkness.
Victor left Moniozoi.
"Welcome to my playground," he cackled, "where the game is always rigged." He activated night vision goggles and disappeared into the shadows, leaving Anya and Ryder to fend for themselves in the darkness. The odds had just shifted dramatically. The real fight was about to begin, and Victor had all the advantages. Anya and Ryder were trapped, vulnerable, and completely at his mercy. The lethal encore was about to commence. "Stay close," Ryder whispered, his voice barely audible in the darkness. He pulled a small flashlight from his pocket, its beam cutting through the inky blackness. The chamber was vast and filled with obstacles. Crates, pipes, and strange machinery. The air was thick with the smell of damp earth and oil. Suddenly, Anya grabbed his arm. "Listen," she hissed. Ryder strained his ears. He could hear a faint hissing sound, growing louder. "Gas," he realized. "He's filling the chamber with gas." They had to find a way out, and fast. He shone the flashlight around, searching for an escape route. Anya, using her knowledge of the estate, pointed towards a narrow passage hidden behind a stack of crates. "There," she said. "It leads to the old wine cellar. There might be another way out from there." They had to move quickly, before the gas overwhelmed them. Their unlikely alliance was about to be tested to its limits. They scrambled through the narrow passage, the gas fumes stinging their eyes and throats. Ryder used his brute strength to shove aside heavy crates blocking their path, while Anya, with her lithe body, navigated the tight spaces with ease, guiding him through the maze. They reached the wine cellar, a vast, dimly lit room filled with rows upon rows of dusty bottles. But there was no other exit. "Dead end?" Ryder muttered, his voice hoarse. Suddenly, Victor appeared, his night vision goggles glowing in the darkness. He held a high-powered rifle aimed directly at them. "Nowhere to run," he sneered. "This is the end of the line." Ryder pushed Anya behind him, shielding her with his body. But Anya refused to hide. She stepped forward, her eyes blazing with defiance. "It's not over until I say it is," she declared. She was ready to fight, to use every skill she possessed to survive. The ballerina and the assassin, a deadly combination, were ready to face their final challenge. Victor fired the rifle, but Ryder dived to the side, pulling Anya with him. The bullet shattered a row of wine bottles, sending shards of glass flying. Ryder knew they couldn't stay in the open. He had to get close to Victor, disarm him. He charged forward, using the rows of wine racks as cover. Victor fired again and again, but Ryder dodged each shot with incredible agility. Anya, seeing an opportunity, grabbed a bottle of wine and hurled it at Victor's head. The bottle shattered, momentarily blinding him. Ryder seized the moment, tackling Victor to the ground. They wrestled for the rifle, their faces contorted with rage. It was a brutal, desperate fight, a battle of wills as much as physical strength. This was it, the culmination of everything that had led them to this moment. Only one of them would walk away. It was Ryder or Victor, light or dark. Ryder finally wrestled the rifle from Victor's grasp. He stood over him, his face a mask of fury. Victor lay defeated, gasping for breath. Ryder had won. But as he lowered his guard, Victor lashed out, grabbing a shard of glass from a broken bottle and slashing it across Ryder's leg. Ryder cried out in pain, stumbling backward. Anya rushed to his side, examining the wound. It was deep and bleeding badly. Victor, seeing his chance, tried to crawl away. But Ryder wouldn't let him escape. With a final surge of adrenaline, he grabbed Victor and dragged him back. He looked into his eyes, seeing no remorse, only hatred. He knew what he had to do. For Sarah, for Lily, for Anya, he had to end it. With a heavy heart, he made the final decision. Victor's reign of terror was over. But the victory came at a cost. Ryder, wincing in pain, leaned on Anya for support. "We need to find Lily," he said, his voice strained. They stumbled through the estate, the alarm blaring, guards still searching for them. Anya remembered Victor mentioning a hidden room behind his office, a place where he kept his most prized possessions. And his prisoners. They fought their way to the office, taking down the remaining guards with a combination of Ryder's brute force and Anya's surprising agility. They found the hidden door and entered a small, windowless room. There, huddled in a corner, was Lily. She was scared but unharmed. Ryder rushed to her, embracing her tightly. "I promised I'd come back for you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. With Lily in tow, they made their escape from the estate, leaving behind the chaos and destruction. They had won, but the battle had taken its toll. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but they would face it together. They found refuge in a small, abandoned cabin deep in the woods. Ryder tended to his wound, while Anya comforted Lily, who was still shaken by the ordeal. The silence was broken only by the crackling of the fire and the distant sounds of the forest. Anya looked at Ryder, gratitude shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved us." Ryder nodded, his face grim. "It's over," he said, "but it doesn't bring Sarah back." They sat in silence for a long moment, each grappling with the weight of what had happened. Victor was gone, but the scars he had left behind would remain. Anya had lost her dreams, her freedom, but she had also found a strength she never knew she possessed. Ryder had avenged Sarah, rescued Lily, but he would always carry the burden of his past. The night had changed them all forever. Years later, Anya stood on a grand stage, the spotlight illuminating her silver costume. The music swelled, and she began to dance. The fear was gone, replaced by a sense of freedom and joy. She danced for herself, for Sarah, for Lily, for everyone who had been hurt by Victor's cruelty. Ryder watched from the wings, a proud smile on his face. He had helped Anya reclaim her life, her dreams. Lily, now a young woman, stood beside him, her eyes shining with admiration. Anya's dance was a testament to the power of hope, the resilience of the human spirit. It was a celebration of life, a declaration that even in the darkest of times, beauty could still be found. The lethal encore had ended, but a new act was just beginning. And this time, it was filled with light, with music, with the promise of a brighter future. The ballerina had found her freedom, and the world was ready to applaud.